Welcome to From Good Girl to Powerful, Impactful Leader, the June monthly meeting of Female Wave of Change Canada. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge you all for taking time out of your busy lives to be with us this evening. Through an interactive and engaging process tonight, you will discover the difference between a good girl and a real woman and how they relate to being a powerful and influential leader. You'll learn what it takes to own your leadership. You'll explore 5 leadership archetypes, including their strengths and vulnerabilities, and you'll learn the disease propensities associated with each leadership archetype. As mentioned, I am Ambassador for Canada, or as I mentioned before, this evening is brought to you by Female Wave of Change Canada, and we are part of a global social movement that is now in about 40 different countries around the world. And I am honored to be the ambassador for Canada of that particular group. We believe at Female Wave of Change that valuing and integrating feminine leadership qualities such as authenticity, compassion, collaboration, creativity, and emotional intelligence hold the key to creating a better world, a more conscious, equitable, just, sustainable, and peaceful one. And my role as Ambassador for Canada is to really grow the community with the help of others across Canada and build this network. So to do that, I created the legal entity and incorporated Female Wave of Change Canada as a national nonprofit in December of 2020. And we are really still very young because we had our first monthly meeting on March 8th, International Women's Day of 2021. So welcome to you all. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you our featured guest this evening, Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville. Dorothy is an international speaker, best-selling author, executive leadership coach and consultant, and master trainer. She's also the founder of not 1, not 2, but 4 companies, including the Institute of Healing Arts and Sciences, where as a leader in the field of integrative health in the US, for 19 years, she trained physicians, nurses, and other medical practitioners, as well as non-medically trained individuals in the field of energy medicine. From an orphanage to the boardroom, she has learned the skills of resiliency, authenticity, claiming the I am, and knowing anything is possible with the right tools. Welcome, Dorothy. We're so pleased to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. It really is a joy, and to hear all the powerful leaders we have here, it's exciting. The more women we have out in leadership, the better the world's going to be.
For sure. We're all over that.
Yeah.
So Dorothy and I decided when we were planning this event that we'd initially start with a question and put it out to you all because we believe it's really important to be interactive. And so just so you know, you folks, that's your first time with us. We don't do speaker Q&A. What we do is an interactive conversation and invite you to collaborate. So the first question we'd like to put out to everyone is, what does a powerful woman leader look like? That's the first part of it. And how do you feel in her presence? So just think about that for a few seconds. What does a powerful woman leader look like? And how do you feel in her presence? Anyone? Feel free. And what I would ask to make it easier is for people to raise their hand. Does everybody know the reaction button? There's a reaction button at the bottom of your screen. And if you press on it, it'll say raise hand. And it's much easier to see if people raise their hand that way than in the view that I've got on now. So is anybody ready to answer that question, to share their thoughts on what a powerful woman leader looks like and how they feel in her presence? Linda, I think we got Linda. I saw Linda and Lorene. We'll take Linda, and then we'll take Lorene, and then we'll take Paula.
I would say empowered, because when you're with somebody who's a powerful leader, it makes you feel like you can do it too.
Cool. Thank you. for being the first brave soul here. Lorene.
Thanks, Linda. Nice to see you. A powerful woman leader to me feels strong and balanced, poised. She knows who she is, and she's focused on her task. When I'm in her presence, I feel inspired and elevated, so that I feel like I can do more. I feel, yeah, elevated. That's my contribution. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Lorraine. Did you have anything to add to that, Dorothy?
Yeah, it just, what struck me in, because I truly believe this, is the power we have as women leaders to energetically shift an entire room simply by walking in it. And Lorraine, when you just said that, when women walk in owning that I am, as I phrase it, owning that self, you give permission to every woman in the group to sit up a little taller and own that. So think of the infinite power we possess as women in leadership to, without saying a word, to impact all the women we interact with. Because when you're absolutely in your own power, you're not challenged, you're not threatened. So you want to empower everybody else around you. And my experience is most men are far more comfortable with women who are empowered than when they aren't. Because power has absolutely nothing to do with aggression. It's simply a statement that says I am. So we really have the ability to change the world by owning it.
Thanks, Dorothy. Paula, you had your hand up. Do you still want to share something?
Yeah, I mean, everyone kind of said all the things that I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, just intelligent, confident, creative, insightful, caring. And the word that came to my mind was also empowered. When I'm with a woman leader, that's how I feel as well.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Dorothy, did you have anything to add? Oh, Anessa,
Let's do them.
yeah, Anessa.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I've had the opportunity to work with some incredible mentors, female mentors over the years. And it wasn't until probably the last 10 years of my life that I realized how much they impacted my own leadership and self-awareness. But when I think about the quality that made my time with them so pivotal and why it stuck with me for so long is that they took accountability and responsibility. And those sound like easy words and we toss them around, but when you're running an organization or you're stepping into a boardroom or you have some really difficult information to deliver, leadership in accountability and with responsibility really takes a lot of grit and it takes a commitment. So I've had that modeled for me. And I think for me, responsibility and accountability are really important to ourselves and to others when we're in female and feminine leadership.
Thank you, Anessa. Dorothy, would you like to comment on that?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And the fact is, when you're comfortable in your own skin, you have no difficulty at all taking accountability for whatever you have said or done. And if you offended somebody, there's not a difficulty at all in saying, excuse me, how can I rectify that? I don't know exactly what I did. And you can truly be present and vulnerable with them without giving up an ounce of your power. Because you're being so authentic, you're being absolutely powerful. You know, it really is just calling us to be completely comfortable in our skin, but having the audacity to own every gift we possess and get rid of false humility.
I think it is interesting, Dorothy, what you've mentioned there, because I can honestly say in certain situations with certain types of people, they don't like you to, they call it blowing your horn. And particularly in certain sectors. So it is interesting. And I think in other sectors, not so much. And I think it is interesting because I still think that in certain organizational cultures that if a woman stands in her power, sometimes she's not accepted in the same way as a man is. Do you have some thoughts on that?
I think there's a huge difference when I haven't worked with, my clients have been women heading hospitals, heading all kinds of organizations. So that my belief is that when a woman stands in power, men are not intimidated. When a woman has something to prove, men frequently, or other women frequently go right into defense. When you've got something to prove, what you're saying is, I am better than, or I am as good as, and I'm willing to take you on. When you've got nothing to prove, you're not taking anybody on, you're simply being there. And there isn't 1 ounce of aggression coming out of you. There's absolute assertiveness, but not an ounce of aggression. And without that aggression, nobody goes into defense. And so there's nothing for them to fight against because you're not putting anything out there that is challenging. Your presence may challenge them, but nothing you're saying or doing is doing that when you're coming from a place of power.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I know I've had people say that. Different clients mention that as well. So that's important to clarify those things.
Yeah. And I also think that huge thing that when you went to pull back on is the false humility most of us women were raised with was about not being seen or heard. It's really being totally in a supportive role. And I believe one of the gifts we bring is our ability to be supportive. But that's dramatically different than being in a supportive role. And so when we have the audacity to say, this is who I am. You want to know who I am? I'm a psychologist. I'm a healer. I'm the founder of 4 companies. That is who I am. Nothing in there states, and I hope you know how special I am. All it states is the facts. That's it.
Totally.
And so to pretend we didn't accomplish all the things we accomplished is ludicrous. We don't have to put them all out there, but to pretend that the energy, the development, the solidity we learned from every risk we took, every success we've had has made us the powerhouse we are. So why not own it?
Yes. And that brings us to the next question here for Dorothy. In your book, Real Women Change the World. And by the way, I highly recommend this book of Dorothy's. I think this is your 8th book, right, Dorothy?
Yes, it is.
In your book, Real Women Change the World, you speak about the good girl and the real woman. Can you briefly share the difference between the two and why it is important for women leaders to become their real woman selves?
It's extremely important because we have frequently, and I know this is generalization, but we have been raised to be good girls. And what that means is we have been raised to live according to somebody else's expectations about who we should be. Whether that was our parents, that was our church or our synagogue or our teachers, whatever the case may be, we've been taught who we are supposed to be and how we are supposed to present. And that doesn't support us at all. So the good girl is truly living by outside guidelines, solely by outside guidelines, because it's very much tell me who you need me to be, and that is who I will become. Tell me how you want me to show up, and that is how I will show up. And what ends up happening is that we disassociate from our own self. We disassociate from our own motivation. We disassociate from our own sense of who we are and our own creativity because our focus is solely on others and living up to or down to their expectations of us. The real woman has the audacity to spend time in reflection each day, to spend time really looking at how do I feel about something? How do I think about something? And has the ability to own that, to be present in that. And the real woman is so absolutely authentic. She presents her fullness, her wholeness in all of her interactions. And there is not an agenda. All right. It's just the desire to be present and to serve however it is she serves in whatever capacity she's in at any given moment in time.
Thank you, Dorothy. Does anyone have any insights, comments, things they'd like to share based on what the two differences that Dorothy has described between the real woman and the good girl, or any ahas they've had from that? Lorene, you want to share?
I'd love to ask a question.
Go right ahead.
So you said that, and I understand the difference between good girl and real woman.
Mhm.
I believe that that's primarily because of patriarchy and colonialism and all of the conditioning, really. And so I run a program that is about unbecoming all of that, releasing those limiting beliefs. And people get really prickly around patriarchy. And so I was wondering, do you have another term for it? What do you call that conditioning?
Patriarchy, I don't tend to go to those words because it's divisive.
Right.
And the way I see it is more that culture has given us a role as solely support staff. And our conditioning has been to be solely support staff. It is very different if I'm here to support you. That I don't feel like the also ran. I don't feel like asking permission to exist. And I think we've been really raised with an expectation that we basically are asking permission to exist. So when we choose instead to own that I am, to be fully present, whether we are in an act of service or our servitude, it's a choice we're making at that point in time for that particular reason. And when we're comfortable in our own skin, we can play any role. If I come to your house and you're having a party and you're rushing around, I have no problem cleaning the toilets and cleaning the bathrooms and getting everything ready for you. This is what we do to help each other out. But that isn't, I'm giving up my power. It's because I'm powerful and more than willing to serve in any way I can.
Right.
And so I think there really is that difference of when we don't think in terms of the patriarchy, we've created enemies. Because my experience in working with leaders is that men betray themselves one way, they're taught to do that. We're taught to betray ourselves another way. And we all lose in different ways. And we want to support each of them becoming happy and real in their own authenticity.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Chessie or Chesend.
Thanks, Pamela. I forgot to change it. My name is Chesend. It's my first time here. And I must add to Dorothy's comment about the good girl, and it resonates so much for me. I immigrated from Jamaica and I'm now living in Canada. And for me, I believe that we need to change the status quo. And that's what I was hearing from Pamela. We need to step into our own selves and not basically what society is saying that we should live up to. Why not create that world that's ideal, that we can actually make a difference at the same time? And that is something that I'm very passionate about. And just realizing that there is this new book, I'm very excited. I can't wait to read it. And thank you so much, Dorothy, for sharing it. I think it is something that we should all embody and let the good girl die and let the real woman live. So thank you so much. I will be walking in those shoes and embody that from now on after I read your book. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad. Please do. The world needs us. It needs what we've each brought onto the table, you know.
Chesend, well, you're up there because this is your first meeting. Do you want to share? You've got this lovely photo of your sons behind you. Do you want to share something to celebrate? You didn't have an opportunity at the beginning, your launch. Do you want to share that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So my name is Chesend Gregory. I'm an award-winning author. I'm an educator. I wear many hats. I am a singer, but I'm very passionate about making a difference and raising children who actually are leaders of tomorrow. And I focus a lot on writing books, creative books that can actually channel some of that creativity inspiring families how they can actually raise these children to be advocates. And I spend quite an amount of time doing philanthropy at the same time, doing walks and giving back into the communities that most need it a lot, especially building schools. I'm very passionate about literacy and how we can actually shape our world and make a difference in terms of the education system. So I do spend a lot of time working with the education department and actually showcasing to them that we actually need to raise our children to be conscious, and inspiring the teachers to be aware of their impact. Our children spend a lot of time with educators, and I see that as a point where we can actually teach our children in such an important time in their lives what are some of the other facets that they need to learn that they're not getting. They are learning other aspects, math and science, but the other aspects of their life, it's really missing. And I saw with the pandemic, there is a setback in terms of that. And I wanted to utilize some of the talents I have and the creativity. As mentioned earlier, some of the great leaders, we need to embrace that creativity, be poised. And those are some of the things that I realize I've been blessed to have some great leaders in my life that has trained me to be very poised. I've won pageants, and I wanted to showcase that great leaders can be poised and to be graceful and make an impact, but not. I see that we should let the bragging be the new norm. It is something for me to embrace. I do achieve quite a lot, but don't spend enough time bragging. But this is something that I'm very passionate about, my role and my responsibility in making a difference, because the world needs us. And as a leader, I see that there's not many individuals that are taking that baton, but I've realized that my mom is no longer here. She was very inspirational in my life, and I wanted to create that system for others to be inspired by my story and my family's story, and to actually be encouraged that they too can step into those little aspects that make them unique and utilize them in a creative way.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessie.
Anissa, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you so much for recognizing that. I just want to ask you, and I was a little bit late on the call, I apologize for that. When you look at this, this kind of distinction, real women versus good girl, how do you kind of put that lens on women working with women? One thing that I notice when I'm working with my ladies in leadership development is that many of them have had disruptive or negative experiences working with other women. And that kind of impacts their ability to step into maybe the better versions of themselves, right? And to have more alignment with their work. And so I find in networking opportunities, and also when I'm working with clients, is that sometimes they've had these experiences with other females, really not with males, that have impacted the way they project, the way they're able to show up and awareness, the way they're able to take accountability and responsibility. And I just wonder, through your lens and through your book, if you might have any kind of sage observations about that.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we all know many women who've been in situations where now they don't want a woman boss because they find them too difficult to work with. And what I consistently say when I'm confronted with somebody with that belief system is that if the woman who was their boss at whatever point in time, or even a number of women was their boss at any point in time, had been comfortable in a leadership role, she would have been a complete asset rather than what appears to be a liability. And so it's really looking at stepping away, if they can, from the absolute judgment on women or women in leadership, and look at the fact that many of us have never had a mentor and have no clue how to lead, which is one of the reasons I stopped being a psychologist. Well, I'll always be a psychologist, but I stopped having a psychology practice and moved into leadership coaching, because most of the women who were coming to see me, we weren't in need of therapy. They were in need of support and how to become effective leaders. And so what I work with right away is, can you see perhaps that the women you were most uncomfortable working with were women who were uncomfortable being leaders? They did not have the training, and they may not have had the desire to be that style of leader. And as I will go into later today, there's 5 different styles of leadership as I've broken it down. And if somebody is placed in the wrong type of leadership position, they will not do it well. And they may be marvelous leaders, but in their lane, and they're stuck someplace else, and they become ineffective. So it's really trying to support them in understanding that many of the women they had were in survival mode, were in fear, because they had no clue how to lead effectively. And that you're working with them is to support them in developing leadership skills. One, recognizing their leadership style, then helping them develop the strengths to do that so that they're comfortable in a leadership role because they know how to lead effectively for their personality. And it really takes away, again, as with the patriarchy, it takes away the enemy and lets us look at how can we deal with folks and take away all women are bad leaders and all women are petty. Some women are, but anybody who's petty is in fear. You know, and some don't choose to give that fear up, but many do if they have support and learn how to do that. I hope that helps.
Tremendously helpful. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dorothy. We're going to move on to the next question now. In your books, Dorothy, you speak about owning your leadership. What does it take to own your leadership, and why do you believe this is important?
It's extremely important because if we don't own our leadership ability, our leadership skills, we end up always trying to make up for something we see as a lack, make up for something we see as an inability. When we own our leadership and we don't live in the illusion that if I was an effective leader, I could do all things for all people at all times and come back over here, that I'm a really effective leader in this. And that does not make me inadequate. And that's a tough one. You know, as a transformational leadership coach, I work with women, visionary women leaders, to help them expand their vision. My experience is many women have a vision that's about this big, and when they make it this big, they think, whoa, I've really gone for it. And I say, what if it was this big? How can I help you make it this big? And who do you need to become to be a woman who could live a vision that big? That's my strength. That's what I do. But if somebody says to me, could you help me develop a really effective business plan and downline organization? I will know who to refer you to. Not because I'm inept, but because that's not my strength. And when we can own it, this is my leadership gift. This is where I'm strong. I'm not good over here. And it would be unfair and out of integrity to pretend to you I can do all things. I can help you develop somewhat of a business plan. I've owned 4 companies. I've had 63 on my payroll. I've done medical, dental, 401k match. I've done all kinds of things, educational training for my staff and all those things. So I can support you in that. But to say that is what I do is unfair. Own your leadership. Own what it is you're great at. And when you can own what you're great at, you're going to do it amazingly well. Because you're not with constant inner messages of how inept you are, because you can't do this and you can't do this and you're confused about this. It's not your lane. Own where you come from and be in it without being apologetic. I find too many women are too apologetic. We apologize for everything. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could you tell me what time it is? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Is that seat available? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Why? Excuse me, could you tell me the time? Thanks so much. Just as loving, but I'm not apologizing for existing. Excuse me, is that seat free? It's taken. Okay, thank you. I'll find another seat. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We end up creating an energy that says, is it okay if I exist? And we need to do everything we can to eliminate that need for permission to exist. All right, so that's owning our leadership.
Thank you, Dorothy. I really appreciate what you said, but also the energy about it. you know, the energy. And I know one of your strengths, that's what you do and you have done, is energy medicine. So I'm really interested in you speaking more to us about that later. Did anybody have anything they'd like to ask Dorothy related to owning their leadership?
The young had her hand raised. Yeah, and Michelle has her hand raised.
Okay, I'm on a certain view and I don't see everyone unless they use the reaction button. So feel free, whoever did the first one, sorry, who had their hand raised?
I can go. It's
Okay,
Michelle.
Michelle, go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I think a lot of women, because they're used to feeling discounted or just going through life,
Right.
feeling lesser than, it's a little challenging to identify what your sweet spot is. Or do you find that with the people that you work with? So do
I find it, yeah, for women, I find it difficult to know what our sweet spot is, partly because we don't have permission to own our passion, because passion makes us powerful. That your sweet, when you find your sweet spot, it's like life flows. There's no struggle, there's no work, it flows and you're in it. And that comes back to owning what are your strengths and what is it that feeds you and makes you passionate. And so my first question with folks who are confused on that is, what makes you passionate? Well, it has nothing to do with business. I don't care what it has to do with. It could be sex. It doesn't matter to me. What is it that makes you passionate? And when we can get down to that, you realize that when you have permission to feel that passion and discuss it, you start getting a lot more clarity about where your sweet spot is. Because we can't come at that from logic. We have to come at that from energetics, from our heart and our soul, not from our logic. And we're taught to believe that logic is really what governs us. Logic is the amazing support staff that helps the heart and the soul. You know, our soul's calling or our purpose, I don't care how you phrase it, whatever your faith system is, but when our purpose is identified, we recognize we love doing a particular thing. And our head has the ability to give us the logical steps and procedures of where to get the training and how to do that and where to best implement it. But when we just come at things from our head, we're never going to find our passion. It doesn't live there. It lives throughout our body. So it's what makes you feel most alive and most passionate. That's where you need to start.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. I think there was one other person and then we'll move on to the next
Hey,
one.
Young, you had a question and then you put it down, you went quiet. Please don't be shy.
I did not have any questions. I just did, thumbs up because I really loved what you, shared. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Okay,
Amazing.
thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thanks so much. Okay, the next question is, Dorothy, you started to speak a little bit a few minutes ago about the 5 archetypes of leadership that you've developed. Can you please share them with us and why they're important? And feel
They're
free.
extremely important. If I could share my screen.
You should be able to do that.
All right, let me share my screen and I could
Yeah.
show it to you as well as explain it. Let me make
Great.
it much larger.
Oops.
I have a slight Boston accent, but we all have our own idiosyncrasies, but I was born and raised in Boston, Mass. There are 5 different styles of leadership that I have created over my 30 years in working in this industry. There is the thought leader. And on this, we normally have 2 of these. I'll go over 5 quickly, but because in my school, I spent an entire weekend on each one. All right, so I'm going to do all 5 of them in like 8 minutes or something. So we have 5 of them. We have 2 that are most pronounced normally and 3 that are less developed within us. None is better than the other. They are all different. All right, the thought leader is that person who has an amazing ability. If you've created a project or you have a pattern that you love, they can find 8 different ways to use it. They can find 8 different ways to make passive income from it. They can find all kinds of ways to develop it. Now, they may be horrific in implementation. But if this is you, you have this creative mind that's always creating and coming up with things and really great ideas, but you can be very weak in implementation. That doesn't make you a poor leader. It says every company needs somebody who can find out 12 different ways to use this product. I have a class. How can we use it? We can do a weekend program. We can do a one-day program. We can do a series of 6. And then they can help you create all of this because that's what they're good at. They may be horrific at teaching it or sharing it, but they're great at coming up with ideas. What happens here is their gift is they are very insightful. They see the big picture. They see the 30,000 foot view on things, and they do it well. When we're done, if you go to my website, askdrdorothy.com, it's going to say right in the front page, there'll be a green bar and it says self-assessment leadership tool. You can download this, fill it out yourself, and discover for yourself what all this is. So this is just an introduction to it. These leaders are very insightful. They see the 30,000 foot view on things. They may be horrific in detail, but they see the 30,000 foot view. They are very creative and brilliant, as I just said to you. They think out of the box. They are absolutely comfortable out of the box. They feel confined in ADHD if you try to put them in a box. They are extremely idealistic. The vulnerabilities are that when they are not feeling powerful in their truth, they're in the reality of who they are, and they go into defenses. When they're in defense, they are in constant fear and anxiety. They have an existential fear in their body, so that everything works out well. They're just frightened of what's coming next. And that gets resolved and they're frightened of what's going to come next. There's this existential fear. They see life as being unsafe. They can be very disorganized because they're bouncing all over the place. They start a conversation with you and they're gone. They're in another conversation before they've completed this, and you can have trouble following them. They can be very unfocused and scattered and very hypervigilant. They want every window and door locked, and they may check it 4 times to make sure that they're safe and things are okay, because they see the world as a very dangerous place. Some of the basic beliefs when they are healthy. Now, remember, every one of us has a lower self and a higher self, or a shadow side, or however you've learned it. When they are in their higher place, life is limitless. They know that anything is possible. When they're in fear, life is dangerous and they feel trapped and disconnected. There's a belief they don't fit in. When your belief system is I don't fit in, it goes everywhere. You don't fit in at the office. Doesn't matter if everybody likes you, they buy you birthday cakes, they treat you well. Your belief is I don't fit in. You believe you don't fit in with your in-laws. You don't fit in with your neighbors, because your belief system is I don't fit in, and that's the filter through which you see the world. And the relationship patterns are highly perceptive, and they can be great conversationalists because they're very intellectual, they're very stimulating, they're very creative. So they can be marvelous to be around. The team leader is the second type of leader. They are in any organization, the team leader knows everybody's strengths and limitations, and their gift is bringing everybody together. They create an amazing team. Now, they may not have a creative thought in their mind. Who cares? That's the thought leader. But they can take a team and make a team amazingly cohesive. And they support everybody. They develop an energy in the team where we're all in this together. And we don't have weak links because we're here to support each other completely. They are an amazing asset to an organization. They are great motivators. They get things going. We can do this. Let's get going. Let's do it. If your company has a culture, they can implement it beautifully. And they understand other people's needs and wants, and they are more than willing to fill it. They're the ones that brings in the birthday cakes. They're the ones that call up and ask how the baby's doing, how this one is doing, or what's happening in your life. When they are vulnerable, they have no ability to recognize their own needs, and they can become very needy. They can be the folks, and we all know 1 or 2, who can suck you dry in 20 minutes. All right, you're with these people and you're just exhausted because they are so needy. Only, however, when they are in that place of woundedness. They can hold on too long. They should have left a relationship or a situation 4 years ago, and they're still holding on, hoping it's going to get better because they're terrified of being alone. They can be seen as greedy when in fact they are simply needy. And they look to others to fill all the needs. They don't have the ability to do it themselves. But their basic belief system when they're healthy is we're all in this together. When they're wounded, there's nobody here for me. Even if people are calling constantly to see if they need anything, they don't know how to receive. I've been at a party with someone like this who was sitting on the couch, and someone said, I'm getting a drink, would you like one? Sure. And somebody else said, I'm going to get some more food, would you like me to bring you something? I'd love it. And then they turned to me and said, I never have anybody there to help me. I'm thinking, sweetie, 2 people serving you food and drink, and nobody's there to help you because they don't know how to receive. In relationship patterns, they're very safe to be around because they are very people focused. People easily confide in them. So notice with each of these is a strength and there's a vulnerability. Without an ounce of judgment, if you have these vulnerabilities, own them. Welcome to humanity. You know, I don't believe in judgment. We're all human. The supportive leader is that person who never ever wants to be the CEO or the COO. They want to be the VP who supports the CEO. If you're a speaker, that's your team player, maybe your executive director, who makes sure the PowerPoint works. If you're using one, make sure the mic works, make sure the stage is set up, make sure the audience is set up in the configuration you wanted. And they feel phenomenal making you look good. It is not because they lack an ambition. They may have 14 people under them. That's perfectly fine, but their focus is solely on supporting you. And when you have them, they are very loyal, they're persevering, they work hard, they're up to 3 in the morning to help you get ready for project. It doesn't matter to them, they are loyal. They can have a great sense of humor. They can be very, very funny. When they are not in a good place, they can be very passive aggressive and they play Mata. Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. My life was hard. And initially they get pity, and after a while you just want to slap them because get over yourself and let's get rolling and make things happen here. All right. They can see themselves as being very limited. They believe they are loved because of what they do, not because of who they are. And unfortunately, this is one of the main leadership skills for most women. All right. They believe people are truly good. They just love people. When they are in that higher place, they love people. They enjoy them completely. And they are always, their relationship patterns, they're always willing and ready to help. Always willing and ready to help. This is who they are, and it feeds their soul. When they are unhealthy, they can become very codependent. And they give excessively, much more than you want. They can bury you in their goodness. When you just want to break, they keep coming over and helping. The 4th is the visionary leader. These are the folks that they have absolute charisma. They are out front, they are center stage, and they love it. All right. They're very powerful. They're recognized as the leader. They're the ones that can bring your brand to the world. Now, I think the thought leader can develop it. The team leader is going to create a team that supports your company growing. The supportive leader is going to support you, but this is the person that takes the brand out to the world. This is the person that sells it. They've got that personality. People want to buy from them. They're the keynote speakers. They're center stage. They've got so much charm and charisma. They make it happen, and they are extremely generous and cool under fire. And at one point in time, I was an international airline stewardess 1,000 years ago. And we were working first class, and the men made twice as much. They had a penis, so they made twice as much money as we did, who didn't have one. And we had the front door started rattling hugely. And the man took off and went to the back of the plane. He said, "I'm not going to be the first one out." We're at 35,000 feet. And I said, "Sweetie, if the plane goes down, it doesn't matter if you're in the first seat or the last seat, you're going down. That running back doesn't take, you know." I went and called the cockpit and asked the cockpit to come out and deal with this problem at the door. We went to 10,000 feet and then came back up again. So this is very much my piece, but we can be cool under fire. But what ends up happening is then once we landed in New York City where I lived, I would go to my apartment and I'd have 3 pieces of chocolate cake, 3 cups of tea, and 2 glasses of wine and try to relax from the stress because I now could deal with it because I was out of the situation. All right. These folks can feel if this is some of the people that this is 90% of who you are, they have an absolute fear of losing control. When they are in vulnerability, they need to control everything and everybody. These are the narcissists to the extreme who need to control everybody, and it's all about them. They believe they can do anything they set out to do because frequently they succeed at everything they set out to do. But however, when this is a huge part of their personality, they will never show you they are hurt or vulnerable. And they believe this is one of those, they believe when they're wounded, you were with me or you were against me. All right. Again, I'm going through this very fast because it's a limited amount of time. In relationship, they can be very loving and very protective when they come from their higher self. You can rely on them and they will always be there for you. However, when they are wounded, when they are in their own fears for whatever reason, they totally want control and they will treat everybody with disrespect. The last leader is the organizational leader. This person, you can put them in a room with no windows, they don't really care. If you create another project, they get to create procedures and protocols. They are in absolute heaven creating procedures and protocols. These are the folks who are the accountants, they are the architects, they are the engineers, and they love getting order, getting structure, and getting things set up. Unfortunately, they can become so good at what they are, the supervisor says, okay, I'm going to put you in charge of a team. If they never worked with the soul in their life, they would be perfectly happy. Just put them in a room with numbers. But now they're put in charge of a team and they fail. And now they feel inadequate when they're absolutely phenomenal, but they're phenomenal in their style of leadership. And when they go to the wrong one, they don't succeed. I share all of this so that if you are a solopreneur, you know what kind of VAs to bring in to support you. You don't want to bring in one that's just like you. You need somebody with other leadership styles. If you've got a larger organization, you want to bring in different types of support staff with these different leadership styles. Then where you're leaking, where you're vulnerable, you've got others with skills around you. And when you own your leadership, you don't feel inept or inadequate to anybody. You know, I am fantastic at what I do. You need to be great at what you do and we'll make a great team. These folks here, they are very high achievers. They're very organized and self-confident, very responsible. They're very passionate and adventurous. They tend, when they're in fear, to be a perfectionist. They are easily angered, but they're angry. They get angry over lack of perfection. All right. They have great difficulty expressing emotions. And they are so driven to be perfect that they have no room to be real because it's a compulsion to be perfect. Life is meant to be organized and highly functional is a real belief system for them. And I must be perfect in order to be loved. So they are terrified of not being perfect because then nobody will love them. And so it's really hard for these folks to be real. And they have real great difficulty believing they are loved. They believe they are loved because of the perfection, which they believe they never have. And yet, if you look at them, you're going to think there is never a hair out of place. And yet they're going to feel like a mess because inside one pocket, there may be a few loose threads. So they feel that they're in a messy shape. So it really sets them up. So recognize we have all these different styles of leadership. One or two of these are probably yours. You are not inept because all five of these are not perfectly developed. So it's when you own your leadership, you're comfortable in your own skin, you know your strengths. And you don't start judging yourself on a regular basis because you don't have the other skills. You bring in people who do to support you. I know this is very fast, but I hope this helps you understand a little bit. And as I said, you can do it, you can find it. Oh, I'm sorry, Pamela, I saw this. I did not enlarge.
It's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you when you're in the flow. No worries.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you
I'm
so
a big
much.
speaker. I can just keep on going and get
Well, you're an amazing speaker. So Dorothy, I wish we had more time to spend on each of these archetypes. I encourage everyone, if you're interested, to go and take the quiz and find out. I'm sure just from Dorothy going through these that you have a sense of your two dominant ones. However, I think it's fun to go and it gives you amazing insight when you find out when you do this quiz. Right. So thank you, Dorothy. I would like to move on to the next piece because I want to make sure we cover it. Ahead. So based on research, you have identified, this is fascinating because it brings in your background in energy medicine and alternative medicine. Based on research, you have identified disease propensities or I can't talk tonight. Susceptibilities people have based on their leadership style or archetype. Can you please share the diseases associated with each of these five? Just quickly, these archetypes.
Yes, I can do this.
How these relate to your family of origins, beliefs, and ways of handling stress.
Well, one of the things that we have been taught erroneously is that our medical history is dependent upon our heritage. Predisposition does not define our health. predisposition is only a condition that we have developed, the precondition based on our family history, but not one single precondition needs to be actualized. If you have two parents, say, are diabetic and they have 5 children, and you do research, you will discover that 2 or 3 of their children will have diabetes. The others will not. If you go and look at the children who develop diabetes, and we'll say it's because it's from my parents, I've inherited it. If you go into their home, it's like going into their mom's home. If you talk to them, their belief systems are the same as mom's. Their behavior is the same as mom. Their eating style is the same as mom's. Their stress levels are the same as mom's because their leadership styles are the same. Go into the children that did not develop it, and you will see that they change their belief systems, they change their view of the world, they change their lifestyle. That any predisposition is only a predisposition, but it never needs to be actualized. What we have done, back in the 60s, there was a field of medicine called psychoneuroimmunology. It later changed in the 80s and became epigenetics. And epigenetics is a field of medicine. I became theoretically an expert, and I put that in quotes, in the field of epigenetics. My doctoral dissertation, although I'm a psychologist, was on the psychological and spiritual causes of physical disease and disorders. And I received grant funding from the National Institutes of Health to research my work with fibromyalgia patients. So I did quantitative and qualitative research. They're told it's a disease. Once they get it, it's progressive disorder. They will eventually be in a wheelchair in excruciating pain. I had people come I did treatment and control groups, and people came in, and I created an 8-week protocol. And I had people in walkers, people on canes, people coming in to work with me who had retired because the pain was so exquisite they couldn't work. It was too extreme. And within 8 weeks, over 87.5% of the people in my program no longer had fibromyalgia. So when I hear about all of these diseases, it's let's rethink this. The personality construct that has it are those people who are the visionary leaders, and their tendency is to overprotect. And if you go back always to point of origin, when this disease began, it began when a child went to kindergarten or went to first grade or went to college or got married and moved away, and mom could no longer protect her baby because the baby was no longer there. And the fear was so acute, it developed along the bladder meridian. The bladder meridian, Eastern medicine, it deals with the water element, it's bladder and kidney, but the bladder is fear and an inability to protect others. And that's very simplistic. Again, we spent weekends studying this, so I'm making it very simple. And the fear of the inability to protect their child or their husband or their mother. One woman said to me, "You don't know what you're talking about, I don't have children." And then she couldn't go away with her friends, and she was enraged because she had to stay home and protect her mother in a nursing home. If she went away, maybe they wouldn't feed her mother, maybe they wouldn't give her mother medications, maybe until her mother became her child. And this is what happens. But I just put that as an aside. The thought leader that we went into, if you don't know if that's you, the diseases the thought leader tends to develop, diseases and disorders, muscles and ligament disorders. If that's been a huge part of your history, muscles and ligament disorders, frequently they're not present. You know, when you speak to somebody and nobody's home, when they live in defense, that's the condition. They're walking into things. They take a shower at night, discover this huge black and blue mark on their leg, and all of a sudden they're in great pain. They've had it all day and didn't even notice it because they weren't paying attention to their body. So there happens to be muscles and ligament disorders, bone disorders, skins, joint or neck problems. Psychologically, anxiety or schizophrenia is a part of the thought leader's propensity. So notice that the adrenals are meant to be used in an emergency. When we live in a culture or an expectation that we should be working and producing and we should be productive and making things happen, and we live this way, we are living in a survival mode. And when we live in survival mode, we drain the adrenals, which then drains the immune system, which then sets you up for disease, systemic and then organic. So disease begins with stress. So if you know your leadership's type and you know the strengths and limitations of that, you really have an immense ability to minimize your tendency for disease and disorder, because stress, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, prayer, whatever is your faith system, You do that level of self-care, and you'll find that disease is minimized. Just as with type 2 diabetes, you know, so many people go right on insulin. We've had over 80% of the people we worked with with type 2 diabetes has been eliminated. When they stop and they do the self-care, they change their diet, they do exercise, they change their belief system. Diabetes is, there's not enough sweetness in life. We bring enough sweetness into your life because you have permission to exist. And you exercise and you eat well because you have permission to do that. Diabetes disappears. All right. This, the team leader, is the wonderful gift of that. When they live in extreme stress for long periods of time, they begin to have low immune function. It's because the adrenals get impacted, and the immune system is what the immune system goes to the adrenals. The adrenals goes to the immune system. It takes all the nourishment and the health from each when they are long-term stress disorders. Reproductive issues develop for the team leader, diabetes, lower back pain, and addictions, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, sex addiction, work addiction, obesity, and eating disorders all exist for the team leader. That's where that difficulty comes into play. So if you don't know your leadership style, take a look at this. One of the things I have all of my people do, and I would highly recommend this for every one of you, is take out an 8 by 11 piece of paper, a lined piece of paper, and from the moment of conception to today, write down every disease, every disorder, and every accident you have ever had. Write that down and draw a line down the middle of the page. And when you're finished, go back and start from the first one as far back as you can go. Some can go back to conception and they've been told stories, some to 5 or 10 years of age. Go back there and then write what was going on in your life whenever that disease, that disorder, or their accident developed. And you will begin to see your vulnerable points. You may find that for accidents, this is what was going on in my life. When I developed different diseases, this was what was going on. Because we have a pattern of how we hold stress. And how we hold it will define what happens here. And so now the supportive leader, the one who doesn't want to be CEO, but wants to, doesn't mind being a leader, but doesn't want to be center stage. The disorders that she or he tends to develop are liver disorders. Back in the 60s, Hep C really came about, okay? And back in the 60s, we had, in the United States, Martin Luther King was killed, John F. Kennedy was killed, and Bobby was killed. And we get into the Vietnam War. All of a sudden, theoretically, we were the best country in the world. And then all of a sudden, all of our leaders were being murdered, and we were in a war nobody wanted to be in. And that sense of support was falling apart. The sense of who we were was falling apart. So that supportive leader for our country was disintegrating. And what ended up happening was we ended up with all this Hep C, a liver disorder. It's not coincidental that it started there and the problems kept going, because the liver is what holds the emotions. It's what holds that illusion of victimization and powerlessness. So liver disorders come about at that point. Chronic fatigue goes with this. I had a woman who had chronic fatigue. She came in to see me, and this gorgeous man brought her in. She was in a walker. And I said, "What's up?" And I said, "Who's that wonderful looking man there?" She goes, "This is my ex-fiance." I said, "Why is an ex? He's devoted to you." She said, "He wants children, and my doctor told me that I have chronic disease. If I have children, it could kill me." Why these people come up with these ideas, only God knows, but they do. And so she broke up with him. And after working with her, I did therapy for half an hour, then energy work for half an hour. And I had a vision of her in a playground. And she became a teacher. What happened is she became a teacher because she was first generation here in the States. And her parents believed that all good girls, if they go to college, they become teachers. So she was becoming an elementary school teacher because that's what good girls do. She hated it. Absolutely hated it. By December, she wasn't feeling well. By January, she couldn't get out of bed. She had developed chronic fatigue. She was tired of her life as it was. She spent a year in bed before she found out about me and came to see me. I said, what would you want to do if you could do anything in your life? She said, I wanted to be a teacher, but I wanted to teach sports. So I had her work for the Boys and Girls Club up the street from where she lived. and she went with her walker, and she did it 2 mornings a week. She volunteered 2 mornings a week. She helped out. That's all her body could handle. And she loved it so much, they asked her to do 2 days. Then they asked her to do 4 days, 5 days. She dropped the cane. She dropped the walker, dropped the cane. She got back to work full time doing what she loved. She married this man, and I stayed with her through her second pregnancy. All right. She was tired of the life as she was living. And when we changed the life she was living to something she loved, the chronic fatigue disappeared. Again, she was going to have this the rest of her life and could never have children. So listen to the messages we receive in the health. And I love the health. I mean, my students required to do a 2-year medical internship. I'm not opposed to medicine. Again, I don't want enemies. We need integrative healthcare, and we need allopathic healthcare. It works together. Chronic fatigue, breast cancer. Breast cancer, the right breast, the breasts are sexual organs, but they are also nurturing organs. Right breast cancer, I don't believe I have the right to nurture myself. That is selfish. The Judeo-Christian culture has taught us that. It is selfish to take care of yourself. We are here to support others and nurture others. Left breast cancer, I believe I have the right, which is the yin yang. This is the yin element of the body, the feminine aspect of the body. Believe I have the right to nurture myself, but only after everybody else's needs are met. But once you've taught the entire world, you will be there for them at the drop of a hat. You never have everybody else's needs met, and left breast cancer can develop. So notice none of this is coincidental. This isn't something I'm making up. We have tens of thousands of research projects that you can discover online with all of these diseases: digestive disorders, exhaustion, dehydration, and ulcers. All right. And then very quickly, the last two, the visionary leader, the one that's out front that makes it happen. When they are enraged and stressed, they tend to have very broad shoulders. They have very large bust because all the energy is held up. It's like, I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house down when they're highly stressed. And this is what they're doing. Because the energy is all held, they tend to have thin legs, a thin waist, and broader atop. And so what ends up happening is all their energy is held up there. Heart attacks are common. High blood pressure is common because the stress is enormous. They are placed under so much judgment, so much difficulty that the stress is enormous. So high blood pressure becomes an issue. Stress-related muscle spasms. Some people have muscle spasms that take place when they're highly stressed. And when you live a lifestyle like that, eventually they both become highly stressed. I have a man, and I know now he can't drive, he can't eat. His children got him great big handles on the spoon so he could try to eat. When he has a sippy cup, a child's sippy cup, because he can't stop his hands from moving. Extreme stress disorder, but he can't give up enough control to deal with this issue. All righty. Strokes, gallbladder disorders. Rage is held in the gallbladder. And you know, some people, when they have a problem and you help solve it, and 10 minutes later they have another problem, you help solve that, and 10 minutes later they have another problem. They may not end up with a gallbladder by the time they're done this journey, because the gallbladder holds all that. Literally, the gall gets destroyed. The last one is the organizational leader, the one who likes order and perfection in their lives and likes everything to work. So heart disease is very different from heart attacks. Heart disease is a common occurrence. Heart disease because they have difficulty in relationship and intimacy. And what ends up happening is that literally the energy in the heart is held tight as they protect themselves. Lung disorders. The lungs are about the ability to breathe in life and all of its changes. And when we can't breathe in life and all of its changes, we don't like the way life is changing. I didn't want to lose that job. I didn't want that divorce. I didn't want my child to get older and move away. Whatever the case may be, that inability to deal with the free flow of energy of air in the lungs creates lung disorders. Thymus issues, asthma. We have what diseases are cyclical. We're in a period with children. Physically, asthma is a major issue for children. The fear about life and its changes. Our poor children are in such a bad situation right now. Circulation problems take place. Literally, they hold themselves so tight. If you can imagine holding themselves so tight, even the buttocks are held so tight, the constipation becomes a major issue. Constipation is an issue because they can't relax long enough to allow the bowels to function. And that can lead to colorectal cancer. It can lead to any number of things. And in the extreme, it's compulsive disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders. All right. Again, I know, unfortunately, it's very fast, but I wanted to expose you to the reality that our health, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, is truly in our hands. And I'll end with this. All disease begins on an energetic level. And we know some mornings you wake up and you are just dying to get out of bed. You're so excited about what's happening. And other mornings, it takes every ounce of energy you have to roll over, much less get out of bed. That energetic impacts your spiritual belief systems. And again, I'm not dealing with religion, I'm dealing with spirituality, which is a very different thing than religion. Okay. When you're at that place, your spiritual beliefs may be life is hard and then you die. Life can be, I'm never going to succeed. I'm never going to be able to make it, whatever that means to you. And that spiritual belief system then impacts your emotions of discouragement or depression or anxiety, which then impacts you physiologically. So when we can go back and recognize that however you wake up in the morning, if I wake up feeling depressed or sad in the morning, if I can remember a dream I had, I'll know where that came from. If I can't remember my dreams, I recognize, and because then I'll look at it, what was that dream about? What was my message from that dream? Because dreams give us stories, they give us messages. But if I can't remember it, I'm aware that in the second chakra, which is between the pubic bone and the navel, this is where all of our emotions are held. And the emotion when I woke up may have been depression or sadness or overwhelm. But as I sit in my bed in the morning and do meditation, I have the ability to define, who do I want to be when I get out of this bed? And I do not want to go through my day sad or depressed or overwhelmed. So what am I going to do? Let me think for a moment. I'm going to be grateful I have the job I have, or I'm going to be grateful I have that particular client I'm going to see today. Or I'm going to make sure today I call a girlfriend I haven't spoken to in a month because she always makes me laugh. So now when I get out of bed, I'm thinking of that girlfriend I'm going to call when I have a break because she makes me laugh. Now I get out of bed with a very different energy than I woke up with. And that changing that energy is going to change my spiritual beliefs. It's a new day. We're going to take a new approach, which is going to change me emotionally. Now I'm feeling up. I will feel grateful by the time I put my tea water on. I may be feeling grateful. So physically, everything's flowing. I feel better. Now I can work out of my treadmill because I feel I've got more than enough energy to do so. So notice that we have this ability to shift all of this, which impacts our health emotionally, spiritually, and physically. We can do it like that. We have to give up being a victim, the illusion of victim, in order to do that, however. All right, I'll stop talking on that one.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I wish we had more time because you have so much wisdom, and it's really, I find it very fascinating because I've been a health practitioner in one of my different careers, and I find it really fascinating how you've integrated the physiological with the emotional, with the spiritual, and the leadership piece. It's really fascinating. So,
and I had a 4-year program, so I mean, it took 4 years to teach all of this to my people. So
yeah.
How do you do it in 10
encourage
minutes?
you to go to you folks who are interested to go check out Dorothy's website at askdrdorothy.com and check out her books as well.
I just thought of this, my third book, and that certainly isn't about selling my book, it just came to me. My third book is Your Soul Sings, Your Body Dances. It goes into all of this in great detail.
I was going to ask you that.
Your Soul Sings, Your Body Dances is the title of that book. It's my third book. It takes each of these structures and expands upon it enormously and goes into the diseases, and I give case studies in every one of the chapters. It's written for lay people. It's not a medical thing, but it's really, it expands this knowledge for you if you choose to study this further. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Dorothy. We don't have time for questions or comments because we really want to go into breakouts, but really, Dorothy, stay with us because we want you here because you'll be part of a breakout. You're going to be put in one. So what I'd like you to do now is you're going to go into groups of roughly 3 people, and Michelle is going to put us in groups of 3. And you both have, can I ask you to have 2.5 minutes to share rather than 3?
A while, talk fast.
Well, because we're running a little bit late here. And you start with just a really brief introduction, and then you're going to respond to 2 questions. And I suggest the person who starts first is the person with the longest hair. And just a sec, I need to make Michelle co-host if she's not. Are you co-host?
I am not. I
Okay.
need superpowers.
Okay, give me a moment here.
Thank you.
But, I've got to find you in the list here, Michelle. We've got a bit of a long list.
I can create the breakout rooms if needed.
No, that's fine. I'm just going to make you co-host. There you go. Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay. So the two questions are, and I think Asma's going to put them in the chat for us. Does your medical history support you in understanding your leadership style / archetype? Does your medical history support you in understanding your leadership style archetype? What is one action you could commit to take to strengthen your leadership based on what you learned this evening? So the second question is, what is one action you commit to take to strengthen your leadership based on what you learned this evening? So if we say 2.5 times 3, I'm doing this in the moment here, that is 7.5. We'll say 8 minutes in a group, roughly, and then some time, to come in and out. And then we're going to ask when you come back for a few brief takeaways in terms of what you got out of the group. Everybody clear on what we're doing here? So you have 2.5 minutes a person with the longest hair starts. Choose a timekeeper, so somebody keeps time, and briefly introduce yourself and then respond to those 2 questions that are in the chat. See you soon.
Hi, Pam.
Hi there, Michelle. Sorry about that. I thought someone else was making you co-host, but they weren't able to, I guess.
Oh, that's okay. And I have who is in? Teresa driving, listening but not joined. Okay, so it looks like Teresa hasn't joined our
That's
session.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Teresa,
Teresa, are you there? You're driving but listening. I'm presuming you don't want to participate if you're driving. Okay, that's fine. Okay, then are you okay with the time? Because I wanted to reduce it a tad just because we're behind, right?
Yeah. What a great session. Oh my goodness. You could spend hours with.
Oh, she's amazing, isn't she?
Totally. Yeah, no, I think let's see here. What was the
so does your medical history support you in understanding your leadership style archetype? In other words, out of those 5 archetypes, when she was describing them, were there 2? Like she said, there's usually 2 that are primary. Were there 2 that jumped out for you?
You know what? I've been on such a transformational journey. I feel like I'm still a little bit in transition in terms of even the archetypes. Because I've lived those different archetypes, maybe inauthentically though. So
interesting. Well, that's an incredible perception. Like that is. That really is.
Yeah. So I feel like I need to like meditate and then do a quiz, and then and then the true archetype will present itself.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done her quiz because I didn't realize it was on the site. Like I talked to her, I read one of her books, but I didn't know it was on the site. She sent me some background stuff. But anyway, when we were talking, I said to her, so for me, I think it's thought leader and visionary. I think I'm both of those. Those are the top ones for me. And the curious thing is I said, so what about thought leaders? I said, so what are typically the things associated with them? And she said, diseases of the muscles, joints, and bones. Guess who's got osteoarthritis in her left hip, right? Oh, I guess I'm one of those. Anyway, so it's quite funny, right? So yes, anyway. And yeah, and so I find it, yeah, I want to read her that third book that she wrote, because she hadn't told me about that before. And I was going to ask her, I said, where can we get this? Because it's not in her table. Any of the tables she sent me and stuff I've read, it doesn't have that other piece added. So you have to read her book, I guess, to get it.
It's really fascinating. And I feel like Veronica, my daughter, would just absolutely gobble this up, because as she's learning to be an acupuncturist and and she's very in tune with, energy and seeing auras and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think she would, it might be a good mother-daughter book club.
There you go. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I guess what is one action? You're good with the time, eh, Michelle? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good with the time. Yeah, I will keep it short. I almost feel like, yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to, I meant in terms of the larger group, and then they come back, we'll probably cut it. Yeah. What were you going to say? What were you thinking in terms of when people come back?
Well, I almost feel like what I'll do is I'll just ask for a show of hands in terms of if there's been alignment in as far as the understanding your medical history
and relating it to your archetype. Yeah, your leadership.
Yeah.
Archetype.
And then I think I'm going to introduce the concept of what happens if you have spent a portion of your life living inauthentically with a different leadership style, and then you're transitioning. So how does that manifest? Or does anyone, or maybe the other question I'll ask is, does anyone feel like they have been bridging, like they have multiple archetypes that present themselves? And could that be just due to, like, are the archetypes fluid?
The only thing is, I don't think we have time for it.
No.
And then Dorothy has to spend a lot of time responding, and we don't have that time. Okay. I wish, so I feel like what you've said first, that first one is put your hand up and do a couple, ask for a couple of shares. Any key takeaways, I'll take a couple of people, just, because of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we're already,
we're over
a fair bit over time, right? So
we're
yeah.
Over. Yeah.
So we have to, you only take 2 shares, I would say. And then I'm going to say if people want to work with Dorothy, and then then when we pose the survey, I'm wondering if we should just nix the survey this time. I don't know. Anyway,
I think we should put the survey in the chat, but not give them a couple of minutes to finish it.
Okay, just a sec. I got to get to. Okay, I've got to get to asthma.
Yeah.
Okay, where's?
I don't see where the survey is on her.
I don't know, why am I not getting, I can't. Okay, it's because we're in a breakout. I can't locate asthma because she's in a group. I can't say anything to her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under leadership tools, I'm just looking for the survey.
The survey is survey. How was your experience? Share your valuable input with us. FWOCcanada.com/event-survey.
Oh, I meant the leadership survey.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, it was like. It was the one I sent, even though it was supposed to be put in the G drive. I did send the proper one, and I just have it, and I put it on my screen, so it's not a big deal. But anyway.
Okay.
So I was going to say, what action am I going to take? What am I going to take? To strengthen my leadership based on what I learned this evening. This bit about. I really appreciated what she talked about, owning your leadership and circumscribing it, because when we think about leadership, it's really big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Close
So-
now.
yeah, close now. Okay.
So people are going to start coming back. So yeah, we'll be quick with this, and then I can, yeah. People don't want to come back. They're having so much fun in their groups.
I know. That's funny.
Yeah, they're not coming back. There we go. There's some more people, I think. There we go. Is everybody back? I think everybody must be back now. I think they're back.
Great. All right. So we're going to keep this super short and sweet. Show of hands. Who's able to say, yeah, your medical history supports you in understanding your leadership style or archetypes? Who was able to find that connection just by show of hands? Interesting. Interesting. Cool. So I'm an accountant, so I would say that looks like about 70%. Interesting. Okay, cool. And I'm going to take 2 shares. So who would like to share one action that they're going to commit to taking to strengthen your leadership skills? Lauren, do you want to unmute yourself?
I actually want to unmute myself to share that in my group, we had Zuleika and Wari, who is here. She's 2 months in Canada, and she's a doctor. So I just want to really say we're so happy to have her here. And so make sure that you connect with Zuleika and let's support her in her new country. That's what I want to share. Sorry.
Yay, thank you.
And if you shared that, just to know, Zaleha is from Afghanistan, and she worked very closely with me a number of years ago when I lived and worked in Kabul. So I'm so pleased to have you in Canada, safe and sound, Zaleha, and I'm glad you joined us tonight.
Thank you very much, Pamela, for giving me the chance to join this wonderful course. However, I'm very sorry that I was not able to join from the beginning because I was in another event and it took time behind the schedule and I was not able to leave it. But I'm very happy. Thank you very much for your warm welcome to me. I'm really enjoying being here. Yeah, thank you for all.
Well, we look forward to seeing you on upcoming events we have, Zaleha.
Inshallah, I hope.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So also about there's a sorry, maybe it is not the time, but yeah, I wear a scarf. Then according to your instructions, you say that who has a long hair, then I remove my skirts and show my hair.
I was going to say, this is the first time I've seen you without a scarf on. Yeah. So this is why, whoa.
Finally, my hair was longer and I was started, but I didn't have any idea to talk about. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Zaleha.
Welcome to our group. Well, I'm going to pass it back to Pam, just because we're almost at time. And sorry, I'm looking at the agenda.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Thanks very much, Michelle, and thanks everyone. We are at time. I would ask you if you can. We don't normally do this. I would ask you if you can stay for about 15 minutes if you're able to, because we have several other things to share. So if you're able to, we'd appreciate if you would stay. And first of all, I'd like to thank Dorothy so much for being with us tonight and sharing her wisdom. And I wish we had more time, as is often the case. And if you want to to connect, to learn more, Asma's just put in the chat, askdrdorothy.com, and also Dorothy's email, dorothy@askdrdorothy.com, and a longer link for a new program that Dorothy has.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy. I do hope everybody was able to get something from the program and support them.
For sure. My cup runneth over, and I'm so inspired to read your third book there, Dorothy. I'm sure many others are too. Thank you. So we're gonna move on. Thank you, Dorothy. And Asma, do you just want to take a brief minute to post the survey, and then we'll move into the bit about Female Wave of Change Canada to learn more about us.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah, because we want to like be respectful of all your time and all your valuable input. We usually always put a quick little survey to really help us gauge your interest and where you're at, your energy, because life happens right after meetings or something amazing like this, and then we forget. So I will just put in the survey the link to the survey itself in the chat, and then just put it on the side, like in one of your tabs. And then when you get a chance later today or after the meeting, if you can fit it out, that will be amazing. It's always valuable input for us to receive, and some of it to share directly with our guest speaker, like Dr. Dorothy right now. So thank you so much for doing this for us, because that helps us better serve you also in the future. And so I will just jump in directly to talk about Female Wave of Change and our beautiful, amazing, incredible membership. So I will be sharing right now my screen. Let me know if you see. Let me remove stuff. I have so many things open. Here we go. Let me know if you are able to see my screen properly at this point.
It's good.
Yeah, amazing. Okie dokie. So I will just gonna talk really quickly about the membership with Female Wave of Change. Usually it's Pamela who does it, but since the last meeting, she offered me the opportunity to do it for all of you. And so, as you know, we are a very diverse, welcoming community of women. We are all here about feminine leadership, and we really want to lead the change towards a better world, like exactly what Dr. Dorothy talked about today, how we can completely own our I am and really be authentic and start asking for permission and just go and be who we are and the most amazing selves. And so we do this through a community, and we are part of a global, Female of Change Global, that is now on almost 40 countries. And our core values are, of course, about being authentic in our feminine leadership. It's all about partnership and collaboration and how we can really work together. It's about gender equality, how we can really reduce that confidence gap, that gender gap, everything that will really allow us to really live in an equal world. Embracing diversity and, of course, interconnectedness and sustainability. And so really, when we work with the global, they really identified 5 key pillars, and that's where most of our initiatives happen. It's either economy, education, environment, humanity, and health and wellness. Those are our 5 key pillars. And so when we do various events or fundraising or anything like that, or some really important initiatives, we really make sure that they are one of these 5 pillars for us. And so by being part of Female Wave of Change, it has a lot of benefits. And so one of them is definitely connecting with that beautiful global community, is the ability to showcase your expertise, like today in a monthly event or in our retreats or future master classes, is to be able to contribute to impactful events and projects. Like we've already launched a very interesting Canadian initiative to help get young girls from 9 to 12 to be able to be connected to the environment and to nature, and then also be part of our intimate collective wisdom circle. So we just finished our first pilot project, and I think it was a huge success. Don't you think, Pamela, Anessa, right? Deborah, we had such an amazing time together. And now we are thinking about launching a couple more in this year. And we're right now will be finalizing and co-creating with all of you members about the topics that we'll be doing in our next intimate collective wisdom circles. Some of the other benefits is really experiencing firsthand the power of collaboration, because we get to know and meet each other so we can collaborate together. Development, leadership development, and mentoring, which are a few things that we're thinking about launching soon. You can be applying to speak at regional and global stages with Female Wave of Change, and you can receive member pricing and event and courses and some of that. The other really cool thing is that we are working, because we are a young organization, like we are working in the board and like coming up with a lot of really cool, amazing ideas to really support you. And so one of them is thinking about creating our own private and supportive online community. So that's something like that it's in the works right now, and we'll be co-creating with you. Is to attend or host local intimate and in-person events across Canada. And I think Pamela is going to be talking about some of them that will be happening maybe this summer. Gain more visibility in a members directory. So that's something that is dear to my heart, and we're hoping that we can launch in the next coming months. And to join our yearly member celebration. So it's an event where we'll be celebrating all our achievements and brag about how awesome we are, because we need a community to be able to do that. And so what we've done that is a little bit different is that we created 3 levels of membership. And so we have the supporter, the champion, and the sisterhood. So the supporter is the one that you all know is $100 a year. It's really giving you like an easy access to really be part of this community and really support us growing, and to enjoy a 1-year membership with all of these different benefits I just mentioned. The second level is called the champion, and that's all the people or the women who wants to champion us and support us and really like enjoy like a 3 years membership at a discounted rate. So instead of the $300, it will be $250, but that really helps us. Every dollar at this moment really help us, because we're really building that strong foundation that we can scale and grow and support as many women across Canada. And the third one, and one of my favorites, is the sisterhood. And that one is to allows you to access 2 years of membership, but also invites you to sponsor and invite another woman in her journey. And the beautiful member Sar is one of our first sisterhood guests that is part of the community right now. And some of the amazing testimonials we've got, you've already met Michelle, who is the treasurer in our board. She's feels like that her energy really gets filled up when she is enjoying like our monthly meetings, and she got the chance to facilitate for the first time here. And I think at this point, I think she's already at her 6th or 7th time facilitating. So you get to gain a lot of new skills and expertise. A lot of people know our beautiful Anessa. She always thinks that our meetings are incredibly insightful and fluid. I love that word. It's very feminine, based on the subject matter and the guests like we were to experience today. And it's this beautiful space for us to co-create, share, and learn together. And finally, our beautiful member, Jessica, who joined our event that we did during April for Earth Day. And she just felt that we really held a space for real connection and really creating more meeting with other heart-centered women and really identifying projects and initiatives that do align with her values. And I think that's really important when we're building this sisterhood. And so here we go. We really would love to have you with us, or if you know any incredible, amazing women that are here to support us in reshaping the future and creating a better world together. All you have to go is to go for FemaleWaveOfChangeCanada.com membership. And whether you are a member, you can renew, or if you are new to us, we would love to have you with us. And here we go. I tried to do this as fast as I could with as much as passion and enthusiasm as I could as well. There you go. Back to you, Pamela, if anybody has any questions.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Asma. I am just putting the URL for the website in here, and yeah, how to join. So I just put it in. So yes, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but to build on what Asma just said, one of the things that we're starting is to have social gatherings in different cities where there are larger groups of people, because we're all about connection, and we still will always have, I would say, the national virtual meetings. But my vision in the future is to have hubs, if you will, in different cities with the opportunity to gather socially and also to do your own events if you choose to. So to kick that off this summer, I'm actually going to be in Kelowna because I used to live in the Okanagan. So I'm going to be visiting some friends, and one of our members, Carolyn, who has offered her home, and we're going to do a barbecue and potluck I'm going to be in Ottawa as well, and we're in the stages of planning that in August. And our team as well in the Victoria area are looking toward doing some sort of social gathering in the Victoria area. So if you come on board and you're in a new area, we welcome you to come on board and start building in your local areas, because we really feel that what we're doing here is so needed in the world, and the connection with the global group is amazing. They're such powerful leaders from all over the world. So, any questions?
Pamela, we do have a question on the chat,
Okay.
but from Evelyn. Yes.
Okay, that's a really good question. Yes, you can. I'll put the global website in here. It's femalewaveofchange.com, all written out. And you will notice there's actually a country page there. It should be a lowercase h, but you'll get it. If people want to, if your friends, Evelyn, want to get in touch and learn more about it, what it means to be an ambassador in a state, let me know, or they have questions, feel free. If they want to get in touch with me, they can do that. And that's Pam at Creative Living Community, or no, that's another one. I won't put that up for now, because I'm in the midst of changing my email address here, so we won't do that right now. Anyway, I want
to take the time to welcome Julie as one of our new members in June. So hi, Julie.
Yes, welcome, Julie. Thank you, and welcome as well. Yeah, Theo, who wasn't able to make it, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome aboard. So thank you for staying. We normally end on time. I just like to say our next meeting is in September. It's September 21st, and they're always the third Wednesday of every month from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Pacific, which is 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to take a bit of a break in the summer. That said, our board is going to be working on some new and creative ideas, and we have a secret plan for September that we're not going to unveil right now. So look forward, keep your eyes open on social media and through your friends for the September 21st meeting. And we'll also be sending out information about our collective wisdom circles likely before that event, if people are interested in joining them. Any questions? Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. Really enjoyed all the active participation tonight. Thank you, Dr. Dorothy. Thank you all for being here and taking time out tonight for you. Hope to see you again soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.